Hello and welcome. This is your October astrology and tarot horoscope for your Gemini and Sagittarius placements. So, your Gemini or Sagittarius rising, sun, moon, or even Venus, Mercury, or Mars if you are so inclined. Um, I am Lisa Merrifield with Trails Edge Astrology, and on this channel, my goal is to give grounded practical advice so that you, as a busy individual, can make the best decisions available for your life. If any of what I say resonates with you, would you please give me a like? That helps the algorithm know that this is useful content, and it lets me know that it's useful content. And if you want to hear more from me, hit subscribe, and I do this every month. All right, let's get into the astrology of October. Um, so, I guess to back up, we'll do the astrology of October. We'll look at where it's going to hit in your life or how it might hit in your life with Gemini and Sagittarius placements. And then we'll do some tarot to help refine the reading. All right, so October is busy. There's a lot of energy, and I think it's going to be a lot of intense energy. So, won't beat around the bush on that one. So, we start off the month with an eclipse. Eclipses are always intense. Eclipses always bring change, particularly when they hit prominent places in your chart. So, if they hit directly on a personal planet, sun, moon, um, sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, any of those, even some of the outer planets, an eclipse can really shift things for you. So you are likely to feel some reverberation if you have anything in Aries and Libra. That's where this eclipse is. It's in Aries and Libra. Um, so any of the cardinal signs, Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, any placements that you have in those spots are likely to be activated by this eclipse, particularly if they are around 10 degrees, maybe 8 to 12, somewhere in there, likely to be activated. So for you, with Gemini and Sag placements, if you are a Gemini and Sag rising, this energy, this eclipse energy, will show up on your 5th and 11th house, which is your houses of creativity. So, Gemini, so this eclipse will really shine some lights on your individual creativity. Could be your children. So, eclipses illuminate things, and it could, so something about individual creativity, what you're building and bringing into the world could be your children. If you're a Sag rising, it is more about creativity and building in groups and in friends groups. So it could relate to some illuminations around friends. If you have placements, and not necessarily a rising sign, but if you have your placements in Sag and Gemini, then it will show up somewhere in your chart, but it will have something to do with the relationships that you have with other people. And that is in part because this eclipse is happening in Libra. And Libra is about relationships. It is ruled by Venus, which is in Scorpio at the moment. And so it all ties into that relationship theme. Um, so, no matter what, we will all feel this in terms of how our relationships stand and show up and what we see in them, either committed relationships or personal relationships or children or siblings, work relationships, any of that kind of stuff. How we relate to other people is likely to be illuminated in some way with this eclipse. So, this eclipse also comes with a really nice signature. So, whereas eclipses can be chaotic and they can illuminate things in harsh ways, we have what's called a grand water trine happening at the same time as the eclipse and impacting the ruler of the eclipse, that Venus in Scorpio is part of this grand water trine. And grand water trines are very stable energy. So it's three planets in the same elements talking to each other. And it is really, it's strong energy. The energy flows nicely between all of the planets. So for this grand water trine, we have Saturn in Pisces, we have Mars in Cancer, and then we have Venus in Scorpio. And obviously Venus in Scorpio is the ruler of the eclipse. So So again, in water, with the Venusian elements, with the eclipse in Libra, we are leaning into relationships and emotional connection. So, in terms of the grand water trine, Venus brings the relationships and the connections to other people. Saturn brings us some structure and maturity to that situation, and then Mars brings us the ability to take action. So it's nice energy. Again, eclipses sometimes can be chaotic depending on how close they are to really touching those personal points in your chart. Um, but this grand water trine, I think, gives it some flow, gives you some ability to manage whatever comes up for you. Um, I don't think that this grand water trine is like an outward kind of energy. It's not like you can conquer the world. It's watery energy, and so it's more internal, it's more emotional, it's more, how you find stability within yourself, how you care for yourself, those kinds of things. This is really an eclipse, and the whole beginning of the month. I really think it's important to let your gut lead, like go with your gut. Um, for you, for those of you who are Gemini risings, for this eclipse, this is happening in your career and daily career, job, money houses. So it's happening in your second, sixth, and 10th house. So second is your money. Sixth house is your daily habits, how you earn your money, how you the work you do in the world, and your 10th house is your job. So for Gemini risings, this eclipse is showing you something about how you earn money, what work you do in the world, that kind of thing. If you're a Sagittarius rising, this eclipse is happening in your water houses, so it's very intuitive. It's happening in your 4th house, your 8th house, your 12th house. So something about intuition around family, or intuition around vulnerability with other people, or spiritual connection. So I would say that something will be illuminated um, around that intuitive piece, or maybe you'll be able to tap into some of that strengths around that intuition. So really lean into that piece of it. All right, so that's the beginning of the month. That eclipse and that grand water trine together, that's the beginning of the month. Starting about mid-month, we take a shift that doesn't reduce the intensity at all, unfortunately, but shifts the focus a little bit. So starting around the 13th, we start to have the Scorpio planets make difficult aspects to Uranus and Pluto. So Venus, Mercury, and the Sun will all be in positions in Scorpio in the month of October, where they will converse with Pluto and Uranus. Some of it will go into December, but those planets are having conversations with Pluto and Uranus that are potentially tense, or that are potentially um, pushing us out of our comfort zone, pushing us to do something differently. So there is likely to be some tension. So squares bring creative challenge, some energy that needs to be resolved. And this month, um, Venus, Mercury, and then the Sun will all square. I should back that up. Venus has already made this square. Mercury and the Sun will all square Pluto as they leave Libra. So those planets are in Libra right now. They will square Pluto and go into Scorpio. So that square um, is about healing and emotional vulnerability. It's about what you need to shed. Um, it could potentially, for those of you with Scorpio or Gemini rising, it could have something to do with money. And this is finishing up a money story that has been going on the entire time Pluto's been in Capricorn. So it's a long playing story, but something about money or values, or your contracts with other people related to money and values and debt and that kind of thing. And then the planets move into move into Scorpio, and will then, within the month or in the beginning of December, oppose Uranus. And whereas a square to Pluto is kind of this push to deep emotional underworld journey, an opposition to Uranus can bring surprising effect. It can just like turn on a dime. Uranus contacts are all about releasing tension and finding a path through something that is stuck or calcified. And for you, if you are a Gemini or Sagittarius rising, this is happening in your 6th and 12th house. So there's something about healing, emotional healing, psychic healing, spiritual healing, physical healing. There's something about healing, a healing journey that is happening. It could also be something about exploring your service, how what you give to others, how you give to others, what energy you accept impacts your physical health. So things like that could come up as we have these oppositions to Uranus, and we could be looking at, or I invite you to definitely look at how you protect yourself, and protect your emotions in your body, so you're not giving. So there's something there around the end of the month, and that's going to be the whole end of the month. If you're listening because you have placements in Gemini and Scorpio, or I'm sorry, Gemini and Sagittarius, and not necessarily rising signs, this will still potentially come up and impact you. Um, Pluto contacts are looking for you, are asking you to go beneath the surface, are asking you to really dig deep and really understand what it is you're doing, and how to be more true to yourself. Any Pluto contact, ultimately, that's the goal: is how can I be more true to myself? Not always easy, but that's the goal. And then any Uranus contact is really about breaking up the status quo, breaking up that stagnant energy. So wherever you're yeah, if you have those Taurus and Scorpio placements, um, that's the kind of energy that you'll be asked to step into. I can't tell you where it will be in your chart. I don't know that unless we're talking about your rising sign. But if you have placements in Scorpio, Taurus, or Capricorn, then that's the kind of energy and how that will show up. You may or may not, because this is a Gemini and Sagittarius reading, but you may also. Um, all right, adding to this tension, on October 17th, we have a full moon in Libra, and this will end eclipse season, but I don't know that it helps to calm things down. Full moons are always about illumination, about shining our light, about stepping out in the world. And this one is square Mars in Cancer. And Mars in Cancer was part of that big grand trine at the beginning of the month. Um, but in this case, I think it can bring some um, indirect confrontation, or maybe even passive aggressive behavior to the surface around that full moon. So you might need to express yourself in some way. Aries and Libra is on the axis of it's your relationships, yourself and your relationships with yourself and with others, is that Aries Libra axis, and so that's where the full moon is. Um, and that full moon is ruled by that Mars in Cancer, which is squaring all of this. And again, squares are creative tension. And so, and Mars in Cancer is not direct. Mars in Cancer can be passive aggressive. So I just invite you to know that that all of October is going to be intense, and about mid-month on, we're going to have this this churn, a lot of noise happening. And so it's a really definitely a month to double down on your self-care routine, a month to make sure that you are showing up for yourself in the ways that you need to, that um, you're hearing what you need, you're listening to your body. All of those kinds of things are really, really important this month in particular. Now, with Gemini, um, those of you with Gemini and Sagittarius placements, Jupiter is in Gemini right now, and so that probably will help buoy um, buoy the situation, particularly those of you with Gemini and Sag risings, because it's happening in your first house of self-identity and in your 7th house of relationships. So there's some energy in that area. So that will help. But overall, I think we all need to double down and make sure that we are taking care of ourselves in the best way possible. All right, before we move into tarot, I want to remind you that if any of this resonated with you and was helpful, would you give me a like? Click the like button. I would sure appreciate it. Again, it lets the algorithm know that that this is useful content. It lets me know. It helps other people find the channel. And if you want to hear more, subscribe, and you'll get notified whenever I put something out. All right, let's do the tarot piece of this and see what kind of information that adds to the astrology. We're going to read from the Tarot of Mystical Moments, and then I will pull a card from the Season of the Witch Mabon Oracle. Mabon um, is the fall equinox, which happened on September 21st, and so that deck just has all kinds of themes related to what we need to work on during this season. And I recorded a video about the equinox and working with the equinox a couple weeks ago, so you can go back and find that. I'll link it as well. All right, so I'm going to pause and then we'll come back and look at what the cards have to say. All right, I am back. All right, so what are the cards telling us? Let me get down to my list of questions. So what I'm going to look at is I pull 5 cards, and then the oracle card, and we're going to look at what you need to release, and then what you're getting ready to set, because that's what this season is about. The harvest has happened. We're starting to clear out. But we're also invited to start to set our seeds. So like set the very, very, very preliminary seeds of what is coming, what you're going to be able to plant in the spring. So in most creation stories, creation starts with darkness. And so we're going into that dark period. So we're going to start to invite in, like, what is that next season going to look like? What are we inviting in? So, all right, what do you need to hear according to what the tarot and astrology or tarot and oracle say? All right, so the first card we pulled is what core beliefs are you ready to release? And you got the Four of Wands. So the Four of Wands is the card it's often called the wedding card or a celebration card. And so I wonder if there's some core belief that you have held that says that happily ever after should look like this, or that celebration and unity and love and like all of that should look a certain way, and maybe you are ready to release that, um maybe that hallmark version of what happiness looks like, and move into something that's more realistic and more authentic for you. So yeah, something about what does it look like to put a family together or to put a life together? What does that look like? And you might have been gifted from your family of origin or the culture you grew up in, like this is what it's supposed to be. And I think there's an invitation in this season to let some of that go, with with that square to Pluto, with that opposition to Uranus, like what beliefs do you have around what happily ever after looks like, that it's time to release and let go of? All right, what behaviors are you ready to release? You got the Eight of Pentacles, and the Eight of Pentacles is about somebody who is mastering a skill or a task. And so I think there's a behavior. You might have been overworking. You might have been overly focused on some material product, building your butterfly. And I think that there is something, or you know what? You might have been focused on building whatever this perfect thing looked like. And so this is saying, you don't need to do that anymore. That's not getting you where you need to go, not helping you in the ways that need to be helped. So yeah, just there's some behavior, some place where you are really, really dedicated and really trying to self-master something that's really not serving you. And I can guarantee what that is. It's the thing that, you're like, well, I committed, I have to finish this, or I feel like this is what I should do. This is what my family tells me I should do. And time to release that. Time to let it go. And once you do that, what seeds do you set to bring in for next year? And you got the Ten of Cups, which is seriously interesting. So with the releasing beliefs, there's something about this celebration. and coming together. Um, but with the seeds you're setting, maybe there's a new version of what coming together looks like. The Ten of Cups is usually happy family, the partners, the babies, the rainbow. Usually those are items in any kind of Ten of Cups cards. So I think, the seeds you set right now, the piece that you are allowing yourself to start to entertain. You're not growing anything right now. You're just setting the barest of intention that you're going to plant underground, dark and deep, to sit for the winter and then germinate come spring, is something about what the ideal looks like, what the happy family looks like, what you are trying to build and grow, in terms of a family. Wouldn't even have to be a family, but in terms of some kind of emotional sense. Like, what does that ideal look like? What does it look like when it's all together and the way you want it to be? And it doesn't necessarily look the way your parents told you it looked, or your friends told you it looked, or society told you it looked. But you're starting to set, like, what does it look like for you? What do you bring in to that happily ever after scenario? Just start to lean into that. Start to allow yourself, you're cleaning out space, you're cleaning out old ideas and beliefs. So start to allow yourself to think about, what does that look like for you? All right, this is going to be an intense month. So the next card we pulled is, how do you soothe yourself? What tools do you have going for you that will help you navigate this energy? And what I got for you is the Eight of Wands. And this makes so much sense because this is about full steam ahead, triumph, you're going. And being that you have some Gemini and Sagittarius placements, those are going along placements. Those are, catch the wind and go kind of, that kind of energy. And so being able to, put your umbrella out and just go along, go with the tides, see what comes up, enjoy the adventure. Those kinds of things are potentially really helpful for you, and let you explore and engage in this energy. So knowing that you can go with the wind. Keep that in mind. Don't get too stuck in I have to be here, I have to do this thing, I have to show up the way everyone in society told me I needed to show up, to do the things in the way that everybody told me I needed to do the things. So there's something about you being able to move on that is really powerful and beneficial to you in this time. So what external things will give you warmth and energy in this month? So internally, you know how to pick up and move on. You know how to explore new ideas. Externally, what kinds of things can support you? And this is interesting. You have the Five of Pentacles. And the Five of Pentacles is a card of loss and poverty on the whole, which doesn't feel very warm and inviting. But I can think of this as showing up in two ways for you. Um, so so for the external, I think knowing that you can live with less. You don't necessarily need the thing that you thought you used to need. You don't need whatever that tradition was, or that whatever that perfect ideal thing was. You don't need that anymore. You can live with less. You don't need all of the material trappings that other people might say you do, or that you might be conditioned to think that you do. Another way this could show up is the thing with all the Five of Pentacle cards is that there are windows behind you. And so, in terms of external entities that can help you through this season, you might be feeling a lot of loss and grief, and like 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 you're less than. But please turn around and look at the lights behind you. Look at the resources you have. You're not alone. So that could be part of this journey. There are support systems. There are people out there who want to help you and who can help you. You just have to turn around and let them. So something about that, is something about that energy, either knowing that you don't need the things that you'd always been told you need, or knowing, or maybe and knowing that there are other resources and support out there for you. All right. And as for your oracle card, you got grieving, which is so interesting. It does feel like there's some loss here, in, either loss of a friend or a partner, or loss of, some kind of vision of what reality was supposed to bring for you. Something around there is strong. So the grieving card says, um, the chamber of your mourning the chambers of your mourning are surrounded by nothingness, emptiness, waiting to be seen. And so this card is really about like allowing yourself the grief process, and allowing yourself, if something is gone, if you are giving up, a dream, even if it wasn't your dream, even if it wasn't exactly what you wanted, like there's still a process of grieving, of giving up something that you grew up with or that you've held for a long time, and just allowing yourself to sit with that during this season. Don't necessarily try and push through too quickly. Start to feel the longings of your heart. Like, what does it look like if it's better? What does it look like if it's more authentically who I am? But allow yourself to say, even though that other thing wasn't perfect, wasn't exactly what I wanted, or maybe it is a thing that has left, or a person that has left. Um, Allow yourself the grief process. Allow yourself to just sit in quiet, listen to your heart, and feel into what you need to see. Um, this all feels like therapy. Might also be important for you during this season. So if you're so inclined, you might pick up with a therapist and just kind of talk through whatever's going on. Um, October will be intense for all of us, and Gemini and Sag, you're no exception, I think. All right. I hope this was helpful. Leave me a comment if it was. I'm curious, always curious to see how it resonates with you. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye.